Who taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?
But he's just not a teacher. Black people now want to be taught. They don't want to be just spoken to. They want to learn something now. They want to clear the smoke.
So what is his purpose?
You have to ask him that. You can't ask me what his minutes of fire conference. You have to go to him and ask him that.
Well, Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had the slaves go work for other white people. Something in that. Well, Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had the slaves go work for other white people.
Peace and love, peace and love. Listen, y'all already know what kind of show it's about to be, man. Peace and love, everybody. Peace and good, brother Crumb. How you feeling, good, bro?
Peace and love. All is well. Mister, just give me a second.
Yeah,
Family,
for sure.
press 000 if the minister is a menace. This guy is a menace. Press, yo, I'm gonna lead this parade. Why you got this clip of Kanye, bro? You are a menace.
Because listen, the brother received so much ridicule behind this comment, but nobody took the time to go research what the brother was saying. But because I'm a master student, I went to go research what the good brother Kanye was saying. And come to find out, he was all wise, right, and exact. I told y'all, before Cat Williams did it, Kanye did it. Before Cat Williams did it, Kanye did it. It's just y'all not informed enough to understand what the brother was dealing with, what he's talking about. But tonight we're gonna get into it. But before we do that, let's go do some housekeeping. Good, brother. I'll let you do the honors.
We got right here number 1, Solo 5000. He says peace and love to the ancestors. Shout out and much respect. And that's a beautiful way to start off. We can't do better. No Flaw Benji says, don't tell me Harriet was an agent too. Yeah. Bruce Lee, it's our good brother. Much respect. He is a black belt and he says peace. We saying peace back. Gemini Slim, usual suspect, always in the building. He says peace and respect, maximum respect. Gemini, I love that. Grateful to have you. D Nice, you already know D Nice. You already know. He says peace, and yeah, he's always in the building. He's Minister. What do you think about bringing D Nice on the show?
We can send him the link. Yeah, let's get D Nice up here, man. Send him the link. Yeah. I would love for the good brother to come up and join us, man.
Truth Be Told channel. I love that name. She says, oh yeah. yeah. I totally agree. Baltimore says peace. We saying peace back. I love
They be waiting for it. I love it.
That's right. Conscious Connect says peace and love with the purple heart. Tap all the way in. I see you. Spider Face 666. I love that name and that profile picture. Listen, he is true to what he says he is. He says peace to the chat. Chat, welcome this brother in. Say peace back. Show him some love.
That's what's up. But it looks like we got everybody checked in. But while we get warmed up, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Dr. Hope in the building. What's going on? The L's and the bays and the wheels and the ways. Peace and light, peace and love, Islam. So yeah, I mean, like today's topic, sold into slavery, railroaded by Tubman. Not Underground Railroad, but railroaded. Y'all know what railroaded mean. Bamboozled, run them up, led astray. So we're gonna get into it tonight, man. You guys go ahead and get your pen and your paper, pen and pad, pen and paper gang in the house, man. Pen and paper gang, where y'all at? Tap all the way in. Tap that one. We'll be on one. Tap 111 for me. Pen and paper gang, tap in right now. 111. Let me see where y'all at. All my disciples and master students in the building, man. Shouts out to y'all, man. We about to get into it, brother. So I'm excited to jump right in, but I'm gonna play it cool. I'm gonna play it cool. It's like a situation when you see a young fly sister across the floor in the club and you want to approach it, but you got to play it cool. So I'm gonna play it cool tonight, right? What is it that you took from this comment that Kanye said?
Just going back to that particular time, I was appalled. I was offended. He took a shot at Harriet. He's Uncle Tom. He's sold out. Harriet Tubman. She's freed the slaves. She's freed millions and millions of people. Canada to Mexico. One of the greatest icons. We should have put her on a $20 bill.
Wow, and I love the way that you cited the good brother Donald Trump. Millions and millions. Sojourner Tubman freed millions and millions of slaves. So yeah, that's pretty much, I think, was the consensus of everybody. And I only think they feel that way because of the mental association, which we all know is psychoneurosis. It's the psychoneurosis. And just in case you forgot what psychoneurosis was, I damn near can recite it now. It's basically the mental, psychological affiliation that you affiliate yourself with individuals who are foreigners. You rally behind their ideals. You think that you're black, nigger, and color because they told you their education system. You just basically have been amalgamated and absorbed into a culture that's not your own. In the words of Noble Drew Ali, you have strayed after the gods of Europeans who you know nothing about. So you associate with this so quote unquote black history, and we're in Black History Month. I think me and Crumb is pretty much, we're on a roll. If you agree, bro, we're on a roll of what we call not so Black History Month.
Yes,
not so Black History Month. And tonight, I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about Africans in America. Write that down for me. Africans, I-N, America, or Africans, A-N-D, America. Africans and Americans. Okay, so keep that in mind tonight as we go through this dialogue of Harriet Tubman. And I have no idea how they got such a great photograph of her in this time frame. We probably can look up when the filament bulb was made and created. This is a great photo of the good sister Harriet Tubman, if it's even her. If it, nobody knows. I think I know you hate me to say this, but I think Dane Calloway did a measure where he disproved she even existed in the first place. He caught a lot of flack. And I won't go that far to say that she may not have existed. But Harriet Tubman wasn't even her real name. That was her pen name. Yep. And she didn't act alone. And we're gonna get into a story in a second to get some. I want to hear make sure everybody's on the same page with this information before I dive into it. Because if you go into this information thinking what you've been taught, and Crumb, I still haven't got an email or a text or a DM from anybody from that live we did a couple of days ago where I said anybody can prove to me that more than 100 slaves came into North America at any given time by way of slave ship. I will give you $100. It's $1 for each slave. And nobody has took that challenge. That challenge still stands to the month of February. If you can prove to me that more than 100 documented slaves from Africa came to North America by way of ship, I will cash app you $100. Anybody. And you better have facts. Who, what, when, where, and how. North America, not Central and South America. Now, of course, millions and millions came into that area. I'm talking about North America. 1525, there were documented 100 of them. Later in the 1600s, about 25 to 30 of them came to Fort Comfort, Virginia. Outside of that, there are no documented Africans being drug into North America territory directly from Africa. Now, the intercontinental slave trade did happen, which is called the second transatlantic slave trade. That did happen. But on the record, over 2.6 million Native Americans were exported from North America to various places around the world. So that means per capita, more Native Americans were sold into slavery and transported out of North America than Africans being brought into North America. So let's just set the tone with that. But what you got, good brother? I'm gonna hop off my soapbox. What you got?
Well, I just wanted to do a little formality and say happy Black History Month. This is day 3, Monday, February 3rd. Not saying that we're going to do this for 28 days straight, but we have been consistent for the last 3 days, excuse me. So I know that we have been fed a narrative for my whole life. I noticed that when they taught us about Black History Month, they only, it was Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, Barack Obama, the end, happily ever after. And it was cool. I'm not saying anything's particularly wrong with that. Give the kids something to smile at, no problem. However, the truth needs to be told at some point. Nothing wrong with celebrating Christmas. I love the holidays, give the babies the gifts, and we can play the Santa Claus thing. But at some point in time, we have to get to the truth of the matter. Hey, listen, the Santa Claus thing was fun, but I bought you the gifts. I didn't want to ruin your childhood. Hope you enjoyed it. Love, Mom. Nothing wrong with Harriet Tubman. Nothing wrong with Rosa Parks. On the surface, but as a people, we have had our history infamously stolen from us. I think the Hebrew Israelites tell us in the Bible that you are people who have lost your history, or whatever the case may be. So I think at this point in time, in the age of information, we are finding ourselves as a collective, as a monolith. We're not a monolith, and we're not necessarily a collective, but our story, the deeper you dig, the blacker it gets, and our story is coming out because we're starting to dig a little bit deep. So I want to learn the truth about Harriet and what really happened, so that we can kind of just move forward in truth.
Islam, I agree. Sister Dr. Hope got a little bit ahead of me, but yeah, this is what we're about to do. Let's celebrate the good brother Carter G. Wilson. If you don't know who that is, I advise you to look up Carter G. Wilson. Carter G. Wilson is Dean. Yes, Carter G. Wilson is widely recognized as the father of Black History Month, and he was a prominent historian who dedicated his works to promoting the study of African American history, leading to establishment of what would become Black History Month. Initially started as a Negro History Week in February of 1926. That's a Black History fun fact for you right there. Put that feather in your hat if you want. Key points about Carter G. Woodson in Black History Month. He was the pioneer in Black history studies. So let's just slow down for a second. Let's make note of that. Let's make note of Black history studies or African American history. Okay, he is deemed the father of Black History Month, not the subject matter of African history or Black history. I'm going to show you who that is in a second. It's going to be a Caucasian feller. There's going to be a lot of Caucasian fellers behind the idea and notion of this African American prodigy and this Blackness. A lot of NAACP-ness with a lot of white folks who started this stuff. But pioneer in Black history studies, Woodson was a leading scholar in the field. That means it was a discipline, like Egyptology. It was never created by Africans or anybody from Egypt. It was a discipline or a field of study created by Europeans, okay? In the field of African American history, advocating for inclusion of Black experience in mainstream education. Write down mainstream education. I'm going to show you who the European, German American, who created formally the formal American education system. Okay. And so-called Black folk fought tooth and nail, dog and water hose to get into these white institutions due to psychoneurosis, to learn white history. And then 60 years later, they got upset when they found out that Columbus did not discover America. Well, you asked to go to their school, so you're going to learn their history. 1926, Woodson launched Negro History Week, which was the precursor for Black History Month, choosing February to coincide with the birthday of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. It's a whole nother one. I did a joint on Lion Ass Lincoln, is what I called it. Lincoln said, if I could had freed the slave, ended the war without freeing the slaves, I would have. If I could have ended the war without freeing the niggas, I would have, end quote. That's your President Abraham Lincoln. The great emancipator who also gave white plantation owners first dibs at reparations. It's called the Emancipation Compensation Act, 2 years prior to the Emancipation Proclamation Act. Well, Emancipation Proclamation wasn't even an act, first of all. Let's get that clear. It was never law. It was just a public announcement. And as I always tell people, Abraham Lincoln was not the president of the Confederacy. So what he said didn't mean a damn thing to the Confederate States. They had already succeeded at the time, and they had their own president and their own money and their own currency and their own economy. So nothing Lincoln said could have affected the South at all. However, Lincoln did not meant for that Emancipation Proclamation to affect the northern states, which is where we're about to go right now, dealing with Miss Tubman. Miss Tubman was up in Baltimore, Maryland, throughout that territory, up into Canada at some points. So let's just dive into it. Let's just get right into it. So we're going to be talking about Harriet Tubman and her cohort, Mr. John Brown, who, in my opinion, is an Abraham Lincoln twin. What's up, twin? Abraham Lincoln and John Brown look just alike, much how Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman might be confused sometimes. So let's give me a second to pull that up.
Well, while you're pulling it up, let me just put this out there. Family, when we say Harriet Tubman, you have to say John Brown. If anybody says if anybody says anything about Harriet Tubman without mentioning John Brown, they're not telling the whole story, because they were like Batman and Robin to a degree. They were in tandem. It was a Martin and Gina, Starsky and Hutch. It wasn't a one-man team. I yield.
Damn, Gina. Damn, he said Martin and motherfucking Gina. Damn, Gina. But yeah, I mean that it's a lot of truth to it. There's a lot of truth to that. And we're gonna see how here in a second. Let's read on about Miss Tubman. Let's see if we can pull up something that's credible. We have .org. .org's website are pretty credible because there's this organization. .govs are also. So let's pull up a .org document without going into wiki. So on your paper, if you're taking notes, 1822 to 1913. 1822 to 1913. This is by Sean Dawson, NWAHM, Protocol Fellow in Gender Studies, 2022, 2024. Again, this is womenshistory.org education resource biography of Harriet Tubman. That's the citation source. So don't say I said nothing. I'm just reading what we see. Let's read on it. Miss Tubman was born into slavery in 1822 and later escaped from Dorchester County, Maryland to Philadelphia. Anybody up north? Let's get some 333s going. Anybody from this area? Baltimore, Philly, Jersey, Maryland, PG County, anywhere in that territory, drop a 333 in the chat if you're from that area or know somebody in that area. And I make that point because if you're familiar with Baltimore, Philly, Maryland, PG County, Dorchester County, Jersey, New York, anywhere in that territory, keep in mind how far these cities and states are. Okay, so keep that in mind. What you're not gonna see is any mention of Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, New Orleans. You're not going to see any southeastern states mentioned this entire time. I make that point because slavery was dominant in the North as well, but the South in 1822 had slavery. Like, damn. Okay, so what you're going to see is Miss Tubman didn't come past the Mason-Dixon line to free nobody. Crumb said earlier she freed millions and millions of slaves because that's how it's promoted. She freed a lot of people. Let's see how much she freed. Once free, Tubman dedicated her life to the abolition of slavery. As a conductor on the Underground Railroad, she brought approximately, guessing, 70 enslaved Africans in America to freedom in the North. This is, when they say North, they're talking about Canada, because we're already in Maryland, Philly. That's the North. She took them more north than Philly, more north than Baltimore, more north than Maryland to free them. That's Canada. Tubman remained a philanthropist well into her later years, founding the Home for Aged and, what did I say? Indigent Negroes and supporting women's rights. A couple of things wrong with this paragraph before I pass the mic. You see the word slaves or slavery. You see free woman. You see the word enslaved African. Then you see the word Negro. That should alarm you right there. That should definitely alarm you, because I can show you in other paragraphs outside of this one, they talk about free people of color, enslaved people, and African Americans. There's three groups of people. In this paragraph, there's two groups of people we see: free people and enslaved people. Keep that in mind. So 70 enslaved Africans. I thought it was millions of people. So was
millions and millions.
Harriet Tubman didn't free no damn million. More Africans from Africa arrived in North America by slave ship than she freed. Let's look at the numbers. Let's just say the one. Let me show you what I'm talking about, because I keep referring to 100 Africans. I don't think I'm making that number up. 1526 Georgia colony. 100 Africans. There we go. All right. Sorry, let me share the screen. I keep saying 100 Africans. Like, where do you get this number from? Before 1619, which is referencing to Virginia, which is going to be about the 20 or 30 or so Africans who arrived in Fort Comfort. This is the Washington Post. Before 1619, there was 1526. Spanish explorer brought 100 slaves to the doomed settlement in South Carolina or Georgia. This is the what's her name? Guadalupe. San Miguel de Guadalupe. The enslaved Africans brought to the settlers became the first documented into the United States. It wasn't even the United States at that point. It was nothing. It wasn't even the colonies yet. 1526, there were no colonies. There was the Spanish colonies. San Miguel de Guadalupe, and of course it was a rebellion, but only 100, not 1,000, not 1 million, just 100 of them. That's it. So out of that 100 that were brought there, let's go back to Tubman. And these are not the same 100, of course. This is years later, but 70. 70. That's it. Just 70. No more. And this is approximate. This is a guess. This is the best guess. She didn't have a ledger taking down names. We're going to dig into a second. She freed her family members, her brothers. And there were a couple of kids that were being transported. And the kids were so loud that Tubman gave them turpentine to drink to fall asleep. She gave them NyQuil forcibly to keep them quiet. I think we should bring her up on child endangerment charges, but we'll let it ride this time, I guess. That's definitely child endangerment. There's definitely a lot of charges there. That's child trafficking and a couple other charges, Tubman. I'm calling it. She said, I had reasons. Now, I don't know who was there when she said this to record this shit. So let's just pretend she said this. I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of two things I had the right to: liberty or death. Where did we get that at? Give me liberty or give me death. So she didn't make that up. Somebody said that already about 100 years before she was born. If I could not have one, I would. Okay, I gotta talk like a slave, I guess. If I could not have one, I would have the other. Harriet Tubman, 1886. She was born, this is her real name. How you say that? Araminta. Am I saying that right? Minty. They call it Minty.
Yeah. Okay.
Araminta Ross. There you go. That's her real name. Write that down. How do you get Harriet out of that? God knows. I don't know. But her real name is Minty Ross. For the record, on the record, by the record. That's her real name. In March 1822, to her parents, Harriet Ritt Green Ross and Benjamin Ross, Tubman was one of 9 children. This is back when black people had big families, 9, 16, 12 kids, 24 kids, a lot of kids. The Ross family were enslaved in Dorchester County, Maryland. Chattel slavery, which is a whole nother kind of slavery. This is not indentured servitude. This is bondage slavery. Debt slavery is what this is in the 1820s. Debt slavery or bondage slavery. Let me show you what I mean real quick before we continue. Crumb, definitely feel free to jump in anytime, man. I don't want to hoard the mic. Definitely let me know.
Well, I was told we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because we should listen as much as we speak.
Islam.
I'm sorry, we should listen twice as much as we speak. I really do enjoy being a master student. And I'll say this, which is not adding value at all. I'm just kind of speaking my piece. When I was a kid, I used to be so excited to drive, and I want to drive, I want to drive, I want to drive. Then after driving for so much, I'm like, who drive? I'm not. I don't feel like driving. So I really enjoy the MOI driving.
Okay. So what I want to show, just flash real quick across the screen. When we see the word chattel slaves or whatever the case is, or enslavement, which is a whole other system. This was an economic system. Okay. This was totally different from the earlier 1700, 1600 colonial servitude, which was a form of also debt slavery as well, but a different form. This was when they got super smart and started like mortgaging out slaves as mortgages, and mortgage is a debt pledge. Through specific transactional records, researchers determined that the Georgia Railroad and Banking Company owned at least 162 enslaved persons, and the Bank of Charleston accepted at least 529 enslaved persons as collateral on mortgaged properties or loans, and acquired an undetermined number of these individuals. What the hell you just saw? What did you just hear? And what did you just read? Anybody in the chat owns a house, put 444. If you were a homeowner, put 444 in the chat. And to all my homeowners, you know how mortgages work, right? You also know how homeowners insurance work. You know how taxes, property taxes work, and all that stuff. Hopefully you do, right? They use people as collateral against your mortgages. That means people were assets, right? Thank you, Nate. It means if you have a portfolio, which at a certain age in life, you should have a portfolio. Thank you, Nate. Nate is on it. Nate is on it. Trust, right? Trust and mortgages. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, but because when I seen the word trust, that's what each colony was. It was a royal colony, then it was bankrolled into a trust. But anyway, through specific transactional records, researchers determined that the Georgia Railroad and Banking Company owned at least 162 enslaved persons. And the irony that a railroad company would own enslaved people, and then Harriet Tubman would be the conductor of the Underground Railroad, and John Brown was the actual railroad conductor. Irony. The Bank of Charleston accepted 529 people, enslaved persons. What they accepted was the bond attached to the people. All 529 bonds were accepted. They didn't physically take the people and put them in the freaking bank vault. They didn't take people and store them in the vault of the bank. No, they took the bonds that were attached to the people, and the slave owners, if you will, leveraged the amount of assets as collateral on the mortgage property, which was called a plantation. So it used to be in the 1700s, 1600s, for every so many acreage, you could own another person. If you had 3 slaves, you could own a certain amount of land. If you had 15 slaves, you could own a certain amount of land. Keep that in mind, because we're going to talk about Anthony Johnson a little bit later, an African from Angola who worked his way out of debt and ended up owning other Black people here in America and bankrolled himself a nice piece of property. But this is just property. So we talk about enslaved people and stuff of that nature. Just try not to personalize it so much as if your people were treated wrong. Your people didn't have any money. In 1868, 1822, the idea of money was not what it is. They didn't have ATMs and credit cards and Bitcoins and Cash App back then. So the financial institution was a little bit different. The financial concept was a little bit different back then. If I own Crumb, for example, well, let's use a real world example. Much how record company execs with rappers, they mortgage their talents out When they sign an artist, there's no money that exists. They do a reconciliation on how much money this person will create in a certain amount of time based on certain things. If we give Crumb a gold chain and a lot of studio time and a hell of a PR team, in about 2 summers, we can turn him into a Gucci man. And as Crumb turns into Gucci man, he can get $80,000 for a show. His streams will go this much, and they just leverage the numbers and they mortgage those numbers as collateral on these rappers. Same thing with NFL players. There's a book called $40 Million Slave. You should check it out. Same thing. The owner of the Dallas Cowboys and the owner of the Houston Rockets and the owner of the Lakers, and so the owners, not the coaches and the players, that's play money. The owner knows if I get people like LeBron James on my team, I can give LeBron $59 million if I want to, because I'm going to make $527 million off his ass, just leveraging his talent. And this is what they did. Okay. Enough of that. I want you guys to understand what was happening. That's all. All right. So back to Tubman. The children of enslaved women were also considered enslaved. That's a system. And we talked about it several times before. What their system is. Whatever the condition of the mother is, the condition of the child is automatically. If the mother is an enslaved woman, the child she bores will also be an enslaved child automatically. If it's a free woman and an enslaved man, the child still assumes the status of the mother. If the enslaved mother happens to become pregnant by a white free man, the child sometimes takes the status of the father. The father has the obligation to teach the child a trade, as with Prince Hall. Okay, let's move on. Tubman and her siblings, as Benjamin was free, this is her brother, but Rit, or Tubman, was not. The Ross enslaver, Edward Brodus, did not allow the family to remain together and work to split them up through the assignment of work. Separated from Benjamin Ross at a young age, Rit, or Tubman, Arminty, and her siblings worked on different farms. Worked on a different farm. A different farm. If you just slow down and read, they give it away. These are not plantation. We need agriculturalists to come work on our farm and farm from us. Well, how you can get them to work? Just pay them pennies on a dollar. Much how a lot of us go to work and we say, man, we're working like a slave. Because the company you work for are making millions of dollars and they're giving you a salary or $25 an hour or whatever they decide to give you. And you signed a contract accepting that. And anybody that works an hourly job, you are a slave, according to the article in Juneteenth. We'll get to that in a second. Anyway, this is the map. That's it right there. Boop, boop. This is part of Virginia right here. This is Maryland, Chesapeake Bay, or Chesapeake Bay River right here. George County, Prince George County, PG County right here, Charles County, Dorchester County right here, Worcester County right here. What else is up here? Kent County, and I speculate. Come on down here. This is Pamunkey Bay. Shout out to the Pamunkey Indians, Wampanoag Indians. Shouts out to those guys in that area right here. So that's the map. Interesting. 1828, at the age of 6, Brodus rented out Tubman. Listen to what we're reading. I just showed you how they mortgaged slaves, right? I'm gonna rent Crumb out for about 2 months, and Anybody need to use his services? I'm gonna rent him out. Give me $125 a month, and whatever you make off him, you make off him. But just give me out 125. It's like renting a car. Damn near like what's the car service, bro? Did you can rent a car? Did you take your car and rent it out to people? Turo. They were just Turoing niggas out there. They putting slaves on Turo, renting out people. 1828, at the age of 6, Broadus rented out Tubman at his whim, whenever he felt like it, to provide child care for nearby overseers. She was a babysitter. Compensation for her work. Wait a minute. Why is the word compensation even in the paragraph if they were slaves? Because like I told you, they received compensation. Not wages, not income, just compensation. Could have been anything. Bar of soap, dollar, quarter, socks, somewhere to stay, food, just compensation. Slaves got paid. They got paid. The fact that they call them slaves, or we think that they're slaves, is not because they didn't receive compensation. It was due to the fact it was called perpetual or in perpetuity, meaning they never got out of that condition. They never got an opportunity to get out of that condition. So everybody on the sound of my voice in the live, all you females, all your babies and grandbabies and your grandbabies will be in the same condition in perpetuity. That was the enslavement part, was the condition. But they got paid though. One day I'm gonna show y'all the pay scale of how slaves got paid. Actual document. She was compensated for her work. Would go to Broadus at the time in time periods for how long she would be rented out would vary. This work separated her from her mother and siblings for extended periods of time. Tubman's life would change forever at the age of 13. In 1835, while she was running errands at a local store, she witnessed another enslaved person attempting to escape. She refused to assist the freedom seekers enslaving and capturing the fugitive. As the enslaver became desperate in their attempt to recapture the freedom seeker, he threw 2 pounds of weight rather than hitting the intended target. He struck Tubman in the back of the head and fractured her skull. Innocent bystander. Happens all the time in the hood. Tried to shoot somebody and struck somebody else. That's what we just read. She teetered between life and death. Her mother, Rit, nursed Tubman back to health as much as she could, given their limited resources. After the incident, physical pain became a consistent part of Tubman's life. She experienced chronic pain from headaches and uncontrollable bouts of seizures, which Tubman herself referred to as sleeping spells. Historians now know that Tubman had narcolepsy, which is a chronic neurological disorder that affects the brain's ability to control sleep and wake cycles. Tubman's place in disability history is often overlooked. Not tonight. She got hit in the head. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically she ended up saying that she started hearing the voice of God, and God told her to do some stuff that her first husband thought she was damn crazy, and kind of left her the fuck alone. Like, okay, you crazy. You toxic and you crazy, Harriet. And she remarried. We'll go right here. In an unexpected turn of events, one assignment required her to work alongside her father in a timber field. Not only did this allow her to spend time with him despite years of separation, but she also worked alongside black sailors. Black sailors? I thought everybody black on the ship were slave. No, man. They're called stevedores. You ever heard of a stevedore? Stevedores were black men who were part of what's called merchant mariners during the time of slavery. They were not enslaved at all. They just worked on the ship. So if you saw a ship coming into port, you saw a whole bunch of niggas on it, you could just mistakenly think that they're slaves coming from Africa, or they're just getting off of work, going home. As a regular traveler along the East Coast, these men were well connected. They were unionized. They shared their knowledge of surrounding areas with Tubman and assisted her in tapping into a network of all those seeking liberation. So she wasn't a cartographer. She had the inside scoop. It was around the time she met her future husband, Freedman. Write down Freedman. Freedman. That's not his name. It's his status. Enslave, freedmen, free people of color. Freedman was just what you see. Kind of like Jamie Foxx in Django. He was a freedman, which is why Leonardo DiCaprio was explaining to, what's his name? The black dude? Samuel L. Jackson. He said, this here Django ain't like the other niggas, he said. He's a freedman. Yeah, remember that scene? He's a freedman. You can't talk to him like you talk to the other niggas. He's a freedman. Her first husband was a freedman. John Tubman, the couple married in 1844 when she was 22. Upon their union, she changed her name from Minty Ross to Harriet after her mother. She changed her name to Harriet Tubman. That's how you got the name. Tubman cherished the moment spent with her father and in her time in newlyweds. However, her enslaver Broadus struggled financially and found himself in debt. Remember earlier, I was telling you how they took the bonds of these people and they traded the bonds in exchange for debts for mortgaged stuff. This is what happened to Harriet Tubman. So when they say sold into slavery, they're not really talking about the physical person. It was just the bond attached to the person. Do people still have bonds attached to them? Get locked up and see what happens. You got to call somebody to go what? Your bond, to bond you out of jail. Where did that bond come from? There's a bond attached to you till you die. So a bondsman have to bond you out of jail. This is called debt slavery or bondage. So when you hear that black people were in bondage, not that they were bound with chains, it was the documentation that bonded them financially. 2025, on average, most black people are still in debt bondage. He decided to sell more of his enslaved workers as a financial solution. Tubman discovered that Broadus' financial troubles were likely to lead to the sale of her and her brothers, Ben and Henry. Even Broadus' death in 1849 did not alleviate Tubman's fear of the sale, and Tubman sought to make her dreams of freedom a reality. She saw her future clearly, detailing to biographer Sandra Hopkins Bradford what she envisioned as she crossed the Mason-Dixon line that separated Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware. Now, the Mason-Dixon line is in Virginia. That's called the Bible Belt. That's why Virginia is considered to be the South. That's why the capital of the Confederacy was in Richmond, Virginia. That's the Mason-Dixon line. So when they said cross the Mason-Dixon, she didn't come across the Mason-Dixon. She stayed in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware. They're just referencing what it is. Making use of her wealth of knowledge gained over the years, Tubman set her sights on escaping to Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, New Orleans, where the real slavery at. Nope, she went to Philly. Shouts out to Philly, by the way. Everybody in Philly. Peace and love in Philly. Abolitionist movement, which were prominent in the city. meant she was sure to find allies, like-minded confidants. After developing a route, the journey with her brothers began. While on the journey, the trio caught the word of Elizabeth Broadus widows, and placed an ad in the paper calling for her return. Tubman's brothers decided to return to the plantation for fear of capture. Them niggas said, we about to go back. We ain't finna get in trouble. Fuck that. It's not funny, but they're all gone now. So, but we about to go back. Crumb, let's go ahead and escape. Let's just leave the job today and get in the car and just go home. We get halfway down the street. Crumb does the same thing that old boy did in Boys in the Hood. Let me out. I got to go back. So she did. So that 70 number that you saw, let's subtract 2 because 2 went back. She didn't free them. They went back. So 68 people. Tubman probably freed. It said that Tubman, during the narcolepsy bout, assured her she would be freed. She pressed onward along, guided to Pennsylvania by the stars. There we go. So a couple things to take away. You got anything to add, Crumb, before I move past and demonstrate on why they were so afraid and why they turned around?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So during that time, you had something called the Fugitive Slave Act. Now, the Fugitive Slave Act originally were for white runaways in 1793. The first act was passed in 1793 for European runaways. They were just fleeing the colonies. They couldn't handle it. They had a 7-year debt to pay off, and they said, it's too much. We got arrows flying by our heads. We got mosquitoes out here. We got fly. We can't do it. And those white boys caught word that if you run down south for freedom, because Georgia territory was not established to be a penal colony, if you run down to Georgia and Florida, you'll be free. So these white colonists were the first runaways. So they had to pass the first Fugitive Slave Act in 1793. And the second one was for Harriet them in 1850. 1793 charged individual states with returning fugitive slaves, imposed penalties on those who helped slaves escape, was insufficient because it did not address the interstate nature of the issue. 1850, though, made the federal government responsible for returning fugitive slaves, was a part of the Compromise of 1850, imposed harsher punishment, because now it's Negroes running away, of course, imposed harsher punishments for interfering with capture of fugitive slaves, was met with widespread resistance in the North. Now, keep in mind, the second and this is an act. This is legislation. This is law. This is federal law. This is a federal mandate. Was it ever removed off the books? I don't know. One day we'll take a look at these old laws, if they're still active or not. 1850. Can anybody tell me what happened about 15 years after this? Well, I'll just tell you. Civil War broke out, right? What was Lincoln doing? Lincoln put out an announcement. Hey, if you come up north and fight for the Union, you'll be free. Lincoln was violating federal law. Federal law said you had to return Negroes if they escaped. But Lincoln got very slick. Here's what Lincoln did. Lincoln labeled the escaped slaves contrabands of war. During the Civil War, President Lincoln, following the lead of the Union General Benjamin Butler, labeled escaped slaves contraband of war, meaning when they crossed into Union lines, they were considered captured enemy property and could not be returned to the Confederate States. Lincoln violated federal law by reclassifying those Negroes as contrabands of war. This allowed the Union Army to utilize their labor as laborers and eventually paved the way for emancipation. Eventually, he got to the emancipation part, but hey, come over here and work for us, niggas. It's just history. Just got to read it. That's all. General Butler first declared escaped slaves as contrabands of war in May 1861 at Fort Monroe, Virginia. Shouts out to Hampton, Virginia. Shouts out to Hampton University, or as we call it, Indian College. The term contraband was used because the Confederacy was considered to be using slaves as part of their war effort, making them essentially captured enemy property. That had to suck. You was leaving the South under the gauze of being free, only to go right back into the Union territory and be recaptured as a slave again. Crumb, you ever heard of the Devil's Punch Bowl?
I seen like a meme or something about it. I haven't looked into it in detail, no, sir.
So the Devil's Punch Bowl was when Union soldiers, as they were leaving the South after the war, basically put a wall around a whole bunch of Negroes and starved them to death. And let's just take a look real quick. So don't ever think the Union was being polite to slaves just because they were not fighting for slavery. They were not fighting to free nobody. Let's just be clear about that shit. The Devil's Punch Bowl history. The Devil's Punch Bowl. Some images real quick. So they say these photographs are not it right here, but they say to this day vegetation grows down there and nobody eats from down there because there was a bunch of dead bodies of just Negroes rotted, and it ended up becoming fertilizer to all the vegetation down there. Let's read about it real quick. Natchez, Mississippi, by the way. In order to house a large number of formerly enslaved African Americans, the Union Army, not the Confederate Army, created a death camp for them at a location known as the Devil's Punch Bowl, a natural pit surrounded by bluffs. Many of the former enslaved there died of starvation, smallpox, and other diseases. It has been suggested that by some that over 20,000 formerly enslaved people died here in 1 year. However, the scale of the tragedy has been disputed by multiple historians. The history professor Jim Wiggins argued that 20,000 estimate is a baseline and an inflated tenfold. It could have been one. Nigga, don't matter. And the author of activist Sir Sesher, whatever it is, Clifford M. Boxley, referred to the story as a Concord Confederate propaganda aimed at the cast of the Union negative light. But either way, you should definitely look into the Devil's Punch Bowl, Natchez, Mississippi. The Union soldiers, over 20,000. 20,000. That's more than Africans being brought into North America. Devil's Punch Bowl again, concentration camp. This is by the Union Army, by the way. This is the Union Army who did this, not the Confederate Army. So let's move along. Harriet Tubman was not by herself, however. Harriet Tubman did have a cohort with her, Mr. John Brown. You ever heard of it, Mr. John Brown? You ever heard of this guy right here? This is Lincoln's twin, I think. I think it is Lincoln.
Didn't they make like a movie about him or something? I'm sure. I feel like they did.
Yeah, they did. Matthew McConaughey, I think. Maybe it's the wrong movie. I know Matthew McConaughey played in something similar to that Brown something. I know what you're talking about though. I got you. This is the Smithsonian Magazine.com history. That's the citation. Fergus M. Broderick, October 2009. Yeah, I'm citing all the work this time. You won't say M.O.I said nothing. You know, I kind of got into a back and forth with this brother. I forget his name. That's how unimportant he is. But I got invited to another platform to speak on behalf of some information. And this brother decided to turn the whole night into just discrediting misinformation. And I'm surprised the host, the brother, even allowed it to happen. But I don't care. So he, allowed it to happen. But this brother was continuously asking me where my information come from, where I pull it from, what I read, what I research, and he proceeded to call me the minister of misinformation. That's like the third time I've been called that by someone. Doesn't bother me at all. But I say, you know what? In 2025, I'm just gonna make sure I cite all my work in text citation, MLA format, all that stuff. So you guys can't say I said nothing. I'm just pulling articles and just reading them out loud. Y'all already know what I say on this show. Don't believe a word I say. I'm not here to convince or persuade any of y'all. This is just information. Please do your own research. Then you find out it's something that you know, not something you heard. Let's continue. John Brown's Day of Reckoning, the abolitionist bloody raid on federal arsenal at Harper's Ferry 150 years ago, set the stage for the Civil War. Harper's Ferry, Virginia. I won't read all this, but Harper's Ferry, Virginia, laid sleeping on the night of October 16, 1859, as 19 heavily armed men stole. You know what? I think this is the movie with Matthew McConaughey. I think it is. We'll see in a second. 19 heavily armed men stole down Miss Stroud Bluff along the Potomac River, where it joins the Shenandoah. That's the Indian tribe. Also a river. Any river up north, damn near, is in Virginia area is a tribe. There used to be a tribe. Their leader was a rail thin 59-year-old man with a shock of gray hair and penetrating steel gray eyes. His name was John Brown. Some of those who strode across a covered railway bridge from Maryland to Virginia were Carroll farm boys. Others were seasoned veterans of guerrilla war, disputed Kansas. Among them were Brown's youngest son, Watson and Oliver, a fugitive slave from Charleston, South Carolina, an African-American student at Auburn College. I'm laughing because if you read too quick, they would call one of them a fugitive slave and then another one African-American. Y'all have to catch that stuff when you're reading. You have to catch how quickly, and then at some other point, they'll say Negro. They'll do 3 different distinctions while you're reading about the same story. It's crazy. A pair of Quaker brothers. The Quakers were very intricate to what was known as abolitionists. The Quakers, by way of a man by the name of William Penn, who was the founder of Pennsylvania. He received property from King Charles as a Lord Proprietor. He kind of held down the fort when King Charles' father was decapitated and all that kind of stuff. That's another story. But Quakers, you had Puritans and Brownists who were religious folks, but the Quakers did not believe in enslaving people. They were advocates for it. They were the first abolitionists to fight against slavery. In fact, Pennsylvania was an absolute free state. George Washington, first black chef in the White House, Chef Hercules, look him up. Chef Hercules was in enslavement, and he worked in Pennsylvania with George Washington. If a enslaved person remained in Pennsylvania for 30 days, they could be set free. So every 26, 28 days, George Washington would take Chef Hercules back to Washington, D.C. area for 3 days and bring him back to Pennsylvania to offset that 28-day situation. Crazy. Absolute nuts. Chef Hercules, first black chef in the White House. Brothers from Iowa who had abandoned their pacifist belief to follow Brown, a former slave from Virginia, a man from Connecticut, New York, men from Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, and Indiana. They had come to Harper's Ferry to make war on slavery. It was never about slavery. This shit is crazy. The raid on that Sunday night would be the most daring instance on record of white men entering the southern state to incite a slave rebellion. In military terms, it was barely a skirmish, but the incident was barely a skirmish, but the incident electrified the nation. It also created in John Brown a figure who, after a century and a half, remains one of the most emotive touchstones of racial history, ionized by some Americans and loathed by others. A few are indifferent. Brown's mantle has been claimed by figures and diverse as Malcolm X, Timothy McVeigh, social leaders Eugene Debs, and abortion protesters espousing violence. America did not deliberate about John Brown. They feel him, says Dennis Fry, the National Park Service chief historian at Harper's Ferry. He is still alive today in the American soul. He represents something for each of us, but none of us in agreement about what he means. So that's some romanticized BS. So what was the connection between John Brown and Harriet Tubman? Let's get to the meat. We're about an hour in already. So let's just get to the meat and potatoes of everything real quick. Where is it at? It's a Google. Was Kanye right? Was Kanye right? Was Kanye right? Was Kanye right? That's what we want to deal with right now. Harriet Tubman was a key collaborator with John Brown in planning the raid of Harper's Ferry, Virginia, in 1859. Tubman's assists included recruiting former slaves in Canada, raising funds, providing geographical knowledge. When I tell you Harriet Tubman was the first Department of Labor, watch what I show you. Harriet Tubman was a key collaborator with John Brown in planning the raid in Harper's Ferry, Virginia, in 1859. Tubman's assistants included, but not limited to, just included recruiting former slaves. How many of you think that she was compensated, as the word we saw earlier? What were you on, number 5, bro? 6, 5, 6, 5? I think you're on 5. Press 555 if you think that Harriet Tubman was compensated for recruiting slaves for John Brown. 555 if you think that Harriet Tubman was recruited. If you don't think she was recruited and paid, it's fine. But the point of this live tonight is to show you all this stuff that y'all thought y'all knew about Harriet Tubman. I'm just showing you more truths behind it. Harriet Tubman indeed was compensated or paid for recruiting. How did Tubman help Brown? Recruited former slaves. Tubman recruited former slaves in Canada to join Brown fighting force. She raised money. Good God Almighty. She had a what's that thing we used to do in school? We sold candy. Fundraiser. Harriet Tubman started a fundraiser. Harriet Tubman started a GoFundMe for John Brown. She provided geographical knowledge. Remember earlier, this geographical knowledge, Harriet Tubman had got this knowledge from Black sailors or stevedores who told her how to navigate her way through these territories. She didn't just map quest this shit. She was already, somebody told her. So this is secondhand knowledge that she's using to gain finances by helping this white dude, John Brown. She provided detailed plans. Tubman helped Brown with more detailed plans for the assault. What happened to Brown and Tubman after the raid? Brown was captured and hanged for treason, murder, and inciting rebellion. Tubman continued to work as an abolitionist and nurse, scout, and spy. Who is she working for now, I wonder? If Mr. Brown got unalived, who took her services and contracted her? Who's she working for now? She became a CNA, certified nurse assistant. She's a nurse. She got a job with the CIA, and she became a scout. Boom. Harriet came up like a motherfucker. Let's see how much did Harriet get from her crowdfunder, or her GoFundMe, or how much was John Brown cash apping her ass to bring these Negroes to him. Let's see for a second, okay? Did John Brown pay Harriet Tubman gold? She had as much to lose as the man she tried to recruit. Brown paid Harriet $25 in gold. $25 and 18 anything was a whole lot of money, y'all. I'm gonna tell you something. $25 in gold right now is a whole lot of money in 2025. Harriet Tubman got paid. It was just a job. So while y'all celebrating her ass on freeing slaves, she was at work. She was at work. Y'all celebrating her just for working. At work. She had as much. So what's Kanye right now? Kanye said Harriet Tubman didn't really free the slaves. She just took them niggas to go work for other white folks. Kanye, y'all owe Kanye an apology. I'm gonna do it first. In the comments, everybody put sorry Kanye. Here, I'll do it first. I just put it. Everybody put sorry Kanye. Sorry Kanye. My bad. We thought you was lying. We thought you was selling out. We thought you was just talking shit because we didn't go read about Harriet Tubman. We thought Miss Tubman was actually all down in Alabama going through the swamps of Louisiana just freeing niggas. No, she didn't go past Philly. Our bad, Kanye. If Kanye ever sees this, we're sorry that we ever doubted you, brother. We should have been on your side. Thank you. He said, my bad, yay. She had just as much to lose as the men she tried to recruit. Brown paid Harriet $25 in gold. And we saw earlier she was compensated the whole time for babysitting. So technically, Harriet Tubman was never a freaking slave in the way you thought she was slaving. She was just being lent out to do work. But she was compensated. Remember, we saw earlier the word compensated? She was compensated. Her mama then was compensated. Her brother then was compensated. Her brother then turned back around, went back to the plantation in fear of the Fugitive Slave Act. Said, we ain't finna get in trouble. We about to go back home because chick, you crazy. We about to go do what now? So you took us off the plantation under the gauze of being free to go fight with these 12 people at Harper's Ferry. What are we doing up there fighting for? Who we fighting with? Who is John Brown? Bitch, we about to go. Bye. You crazy. We gotta go to work in the morning. We getting paid good. And I wouldn't doubt they found out she was getting paid. Harriet, he's paying you to bring us to him and you ain't giving us nothing. Listen, I told you she was the first, she was Department of Labor. She was an HR recruiter. Thank you. Thank you. $25.61 is equivalent to $896 today. Who could use $896 right now? I know I can. Who needs some gas in their car? Who got to pay the cell phone bill right now? Who can use $896 right now today? I can. That's a car note. Those who got kids in high school, that's prom, graduation gift. Come on now. She got paid. Now let's do this right here, Crumb. 25 times 70. That's the number they gave us in the beginning. 25. I'm gonna do it on my calculator too. 25 times 70. That's 1,750. Now that 896, let's do that. 896, 61. That's equivalent to $100,569.67 is about what Harriet Tubman made on her 70 people recruitment effort. Right. So that's 1750. Now that 1750 multiplied by that 896 is $100,000. There you go. 100,569.750. Hell, I would have recruited some niggas back then to do that. I would have been HR number 2. Hell, you could have called me HT number 2, Harriet Tubman number 2. For that kind of money. But as you guys can see, I did not make this up. Go ahead, bro.
That's more than 1.5 million.
Oh, you're right. I said 100. That's a million. You're right. 569,000. Apologize. My bad. I did not make this stuff up. I didn't. This nigga said she was a Negro broker. She was a Negro broker. She was the first 6-figure nigga. Come on.
Hey, that's clever.
Come on, somebody. I see what you did there, Tamara. I see what you did. I got you. I see what you did. Oh, she was definitely 7 figures, not 6. She was definitely 7 figure. 7-figure nigga. So let's read on. I'm gonna make 2 more points and then we're gonna get up out of here. Brown paid Harriet $25 in gold to support her recruitment efforts throughout the spring and summer. Woo, wait a minute. This motherfucker was working, wasn't she? She spring 2 seasons she had of this. 2 seasons. She traveled to Auburn, New York in the fall and checked in with her family, and then Boston during the winter, where once again she met up with John Brown. Not Alabama, not Mississippi, not Georgia, not South Carolina, not Louisiana, not none of that shit. Freeing nobody. So when you hear Negroes ran north for freedom, it's because those Negroes were from the north originally under what's called the second transatlantic slave trade, the domestic slave trade. And the only reason they was running north because they was trying to go back home. Harriet Tubman had nothing to do with that. Harriet Tubman never went past Philly and Maryland, and she only freed 68 people because 2 of them, her 2 brothers, went back, so they don't count. Let's subtract 2 from 70 they gave us. And she got paid $25 in gold for her support and recruitment and efforts throughout. The word throughout means and continuously got paid for 2 seasons. It wasn't a one-time installment. Throughout, it says. She had a job. She was at work. Okay. Let's continue. Now, what I'm more concerned with is who was Harriet Tubman? What was her motive? Where's she from? Now I'm concerned. Now I want to dig. Harriet Tubman ancestry is from Africa. Her maternal grandmother, Modesty, was captured and brought to America on a slave ship from Africa. Modesty arrived in the United States before the American Revolution. She was likely captured as a young girl and survived the Middle Passage, the forced journey from Africa to America. Tubman's mother, Rit, was a daughter of Modesty. Rit was enslaved by Overthrow Patterson and worked as a chef for the Broadus family. Not in the field. Ben Ross, Tubman's father, Ben Ross was a skilled woodsman who managed timber work on Thompson Plantation. These people had jobs. But for some reason, it is fused to your black ass mind that they were just in chains and shambles, picking cotton all day. They was at work. It was working. They were compensated. I can back this up with more facts from what was called the General Order Number 3, which was read in Galveston, Texas, that gave you Juneteenth. It says, freedmen, stay in your homes and continue to work for wages. Because they got paid. Wasn't that much, but they got paid. They got compensated. And they had trades. These were no dumb bumpkin Negroes. Yes, that's all in the movies. Her father was a skilled woodsman who managed timber work on the Thompson plantation. Her mother was a chef. Tubman was told as a child that she was similar to the Ashanti people, where she was picked up from the Gold Coast of West Africa, now called Guyana. She may have picked up Ashanti proverbs as a child. That's her ancestry. From Ghana, or Guyana, Africa. Let me show you another one real quick before we get out of here. Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth was an African-American woman with ancestry of slave people from Ghana or Guinea, in Guinea. This is her ancestry. These are Africans in America. Let me show you one more. You don't know about this fella? You should definitely go look him up. This is Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson was supposedly the first black slave owner in the colonies. Anthony Johnson was a man from Angola who achieved wealth by the early 17th century, 1600s. Anthony Johnson was a supposed black slave owner. Again, these are Africans in America. Africans in America. They didn't play with your tops the whole time. They didn't play with your head the whole time. The whole time. The whole time. Anthony Johnson, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman were all Africans in America. And for some reason, you associate your black self with Africans from Africa.
Mandinka? What food stuff that you talking about that's African? I ain't no African.
Well, I'm Mandinka. We're proud people.
And I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. I ain't no African. Bad.
Right there in the movie Roots. I yield the floor, brother.
Wow. Day 3, Monday, February 3rd, 2025, Black History Month. We covered Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. What did we do for day 1? What was day 1? I forgot already.
Oh, that was Dr. King or somebody, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Michael King.
Yeah, Michael. How can I forget?
Did you see the documents, bro? The release that Trump did, like they actually released the files of what was going on with Michael King. Did you read it?
I saw some of it, because they posted it on the internet, and I saw the word homosexual underlined in red.
Yeah, he was Diddy parties.
Diddy parties, yeah.
Yeah. Pokeretta.
Yeah. But yeah, I think tomorrow I want to talk about I can't even remember. I want to talk about something salacious though. Maybe we can review The Billy Carson debate. I would like to review the Billy Carson debate. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, we can. What's the white boy name?
Something Huff Wise or something Wiseman.
Yeah, I actually dove into some of his YouTube footage, and while he is right on some stuff, he's also a little biased on a lot of his stuff too. That's the cool thing from being a student of Malachi's York, because Dr. York makes you study everybody's shit. But he is slightly biased on his information. So, but yeah, we could definitely deal into that. You know, I never liked Billy Carson in the first place.
Yeah, I did a video on Billy Carson. His name is not even Billy Carson, but it ain't even a big deal. Who cares? You know, my name ain't Crumb, so I ain't tripping on nobody.
Right.
But yeah, with that said, Black History Month, I want to go into it, but I do want to go into White History Month, though. I have to be honest. Can you type in Wood Woes? WOOD is the first word. WOSE is the second word. Can you type that in real quick? I think that's it.
Yeah, let me
Or I mean, I can do it. It doesn't matter.
what happened to my screen, man? Yeah, you're gonna have to, because I don't know what happened to my screen just then. That's weird.
Okay, no problem. All right, so check this out.
What the hell just happened to my screen?
Family, I don't mind doing Black History Month. Lord knows I don't. But Black people and white people are connected, whether we like it or not.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so it's one word, Wood Woes. All right, so here, family. Press what number we on, Minister? 6? We're on 6, right?
Yeah, 666, yeah.
Press 666 if you never heard of Wood Woes. Press 666 if you never heard of Wood Woes. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History Month, family. We might do this tomorrow. We might get into this. Press 666 if you never heard of Wood Woes. Okay, so the family. Oh wow. Okay, I didn't think it was gonna be this many people. Okay, so basically, let's go to images. These are the people the Moors had to fight. Oh, the Moors.
Yeah.
The Moors civilized the European. The Moors had to civilize these people. The Moors had to go against the Wood Woes. But y'all talk about the Moors, all of this, and the Moors was doing this with the. Why y'all never talk about the Moors fighting the Wood Woes?
Shit, they don't know what they don't know. I mean, like you don't know what you don't know.
Family,
that is crazy.
I really hate to be that dude who always talks about Tamahu, Flugelrod, troglodytes. But listen, we're going to talk about Tamahu. We're going to talk about Flugelrod. We're going to talk about troglodyte. We're going to talk about Wood Woes. We're going to talk about homunculus, Neanderthal, it's Caucasian, whatever. It's so many. But anyway, yeah. So maybe
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Esau.
Uh-oh.
I don't want to talk about Esau.
Uh-oh.
Family, the relationship between us and them is we kind of like twin brothers, but it was a genetic whatever that didn't quite, go the way it was supposed to. And Esau was the red hairy one. No, I'm sorry, please.
No, I'm looking to what you're saying. Like, that shit makes sense though. That makes so much sense.
Peckerwoods. We're gonna have to talk about Peckerwoods.
Red legs.
We got to talk about family. Y'all don't. Happy White History Month.
Yep. The red legs. Not rednecks. The red legs.
Correct.
Damn.
So I don't know. I don't know, Minister.
I think white history will definitely be a nice little situation to dive into. Just something different.
Yeah.
To a little bit of shake and bake.
Hey.
A little bit of shake
put,
and bake. Yeah.
Put a little Sal Zone on the history.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, so with that said, that's pretty much all I have. Minister, I really appreciate you driving tonight. I really enjoyed it. My only request, as usual, let's do it again.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you, bro?
No,
Mike,
I'm
there we go.
I'm still here.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, I really appreciate everything. My only request is let's do it again.
For sure, man. For sure. Let's make it happen. So listen, y'all. Appreciate y'all, man, for tapping in. Be sure to share this thing, man. If you have not subscribed, be sure to subscribe, support. And definitely let's hop in the comments on this thing, man. Continue the conversation over on YouTube, whatever platform you join us on. Appreciate y'all. Peace and love.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test.